Hey, this is Janne Jaloma from Dark Funeral, Nightcrown, and all the other bands in the world. You are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews. This is episode number 151, and today's guest, we're talking to my man, Janne Jalma. He is a metal drummer from Sweden. He plays with Dark Funeral, despite Ironmaster, Nightcrown, probably a plethora of other bands. Today we're going to be talking to him about what got him into metal, what made him want to start playing drums, as well as go through his discography. So without further ado, let's go talk to Janne. So what's
All
up,
right.
guys? I'm here with my man Janne Alma from Dark Funeral, Despite, Imperium, Ironmaster, Nightcrown, Revivorium is Malakt, and Ruined Soul. Probably a bunch of other bands I probably don't even know about. So how you doing today, dude?
Oh, I'm doing good, doing good. Thanks, man. It's a bit of a busy day, but all good. How about
Yeah,
you?
I'm doing pretty well. It seems like only yesterday that we were chatting in Atlanta during the cattle decap tour, and here we are again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It wasn't long ago. It really wasn't that long.
it
It's
feels
like
like
a
it
month
had.
and a half ago or something.
Yeah, it feels like it has been. But it was like back in May. I was like told because I've interviewed almost every other member of Dark Funeral, but you were like the last piece of the puzzle, and now I got all five members.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah,
Persistence. Like I rarely do these things anyway, so it's hard to get me to do it. Like I
yeah, but I had to
kind of do
convince you.
everything to get away from it, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you were persistent. So here
yeah,
we are.
yeah. And I don't think hasn't been any in other interviews. I figured if nobody else is gonna step up to the plate, I might as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done a few, but I don't know where they went really. So it's I don't know. There's not many at least. Like not that I can see or remember
Yeah, but
that are actually
this
out
is an
there. So
exclusive. So this is an exclusive right here.
pretty much it. You could say.
Awesome. Okay. So, kind of like the format is, I want to do like a rundown of your discography and talk about like your musical journey from where you started to where you are today. So, take me back to young Janne Jalma. So, kind of growing up in
Okay.
Sweden, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to start playing drums?
Um, thing is, like I have a musical family, and they tried to get me to play when I was really young, but I didn't want to. And my dad was a drummer, and I definitely did not want to be a drummer because I thought that was like the lamest shit you could ever do. Like, because I don't know, I just was not like I had absolutely zero interest. But then, like when I was younger, I usually picked up a guitar or a bass, and I would jam along to Maiden songs, mainly on bass actually, because that was easier for me. It was easier to get away with at least. It sounded kind of right, but probably wasn't. But then I heard when I was like about to be 15, I heard Children of Bodom for the first time.
Wow.
And that's when I heard like fast double kicks and shit. And I was like, oh, drums can do that. So that kind of caught my interest a little bit. And I uh, I started playing around not on my dad's kit, but it was actually my cousin had a kit, and I tried. It had a double pedal as well that I didn't even know was a thing. So I tried that and realized like, okay, this is pretty cool. I want to give this a try because I could understand what I was hearing after seeing how it's actually done, with the double pedal and like you use both legs and all that stuff. And that was really cool to me. So I started saving up for a kit, and then I ended up getting a kit for Christmas, like a starter kit pretty much,
Awesome.
because my
So,
parents weren't really convinced that I was going to be my parents were not convinced that I was going to do this. They thought it was just like a phase,
yeah.
which honestly I thought too. But once I started, I never really stopped.
Yeah, be like it's not a
And
phase, mom.
still isn't. Like I'm 32 now, and I guess I'm still in the phase if it's one.
Yeah, yeah, I'm still like I remember even
So
like getting
yeah,
into metal, I was like young, and I'm 29, and I still don't still it's not phase. It's like metal for life.
yeah. Usually that kind of how it ends up.
Yeah.
A few more things have gotten into the picture since then, but when I was that age, it was basically only death metal that and a selected few black metal bands that like there were the bigger ones because I didn't have like a high speed internet connection where I grew up, where I am now actually because I moved back and I built my own house around the corner. So my studio is in the same place of where I started when I was younger. So, but I was playing along to like Dimmu Borgir, Nile, and Aeon. Like after actually going back to the previous question, like what really piqued my interest of like how to play this kind of stuff was when I went to a Cannibal Corpse show
Yeah.
and Aeon were opening, and I had no idea who Aeon was, and I saw that, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing that. Now it's I sealed the deal. Like I'm committing to this because that was cool as shit.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And so tell me about,
Which
because I was,
ironically was Nils
yeah.
who was playing drums.
Yeah. From what I saw on Metal Archives, I think because I think your first band was called Anubis, and then there was also Confidence. I was just curious, were those before Ruin Soul, or were they sort of like after?
They were before. Um, there actually was one more band before Anubis, but we never really made it out of the woods where I live. I played like one show out of school once, and yeah, that was sick. But Anubis was like my first band where I was playing shows in Gothenburg, which is a big city near me. And the band Confidence, that was I keep forgetting that even happened because I wasn't supposed to be there. I just helped them out a little bit because they lost their drummer and they were going to do a recording, but that was more like arena rock kind of stuff that I was helping out with, which is not my comfort zone at all. So that happened, and Ruined Soul. No, Ruined Soul actually happened before Confidence. Confidence was a thing in like 10 years ago or something. But Ruined Soul, I was like 18, 19. And we played a couple of shows, but that was really just Johnny led the band and had people in it. So like the albums are all programmed drums that I had nothing to do with, and but I played the live shows.
Oh, oh, so you said, I never knew that. I thought you played on My Dying Day and Virus. I didn't know it was programmed.
No, it's programmed. It's programmed, but I do play on the videos, like, and I've played the songs live. But those albums were kind of done without me anyway. I was more or less just like a live member.
Oh wow. Oh, I never knew that. That, I guess, hashtag the
Yeah,
more you
crush
know.
your dreams.
Yeah. And then I think going into that, I think that you were in a band called Chronic Torment from 2011, 2013. And surprisingly, you played guitar in that band. I never knew you even played guitar. I don't know if there's any like video online or
Yeah,
anything.
no, not really. I'm not a great guitar player. Like I do have this one, but like this is like a baritone guitar that I tune down a lot. Like
Oh,
it's
oh,
down in low E.
it looks
But
pretty
I
badass though.
the reason why I played with the Chronic Torment was actually because of the keyboard player. Is a friend of my dad, and they used to hang out here a lot when I was younger, and they knew I played music. And the guy who played drums in Chronic Torment, he is the band. So, and on the albums, he usually plays everything, and he likes to have people who just plays with him, I guess, because that's not a band that really plays gigs or anything. And I didn't have anything to do at the time. So he was like, "Do you want to play guitar in Chronic Torment?" I'm like, "Guitar?" Like, I'm not really that good at it. But he's like, "No, I think you can do it. Like, you'll get into it." So I was like, "Oh, well, I got nothing better to do. So, like, let's go."
Oh, oh yeah.
So I did do a recording with them, but I'm not sure if that recording ever made light of day. So I know it's on a computer in bunkers and in the outskirts of Gothenburg, but
Uh,
and I'm not sure if that band is still active, but it always will be in
yeah.
some way. Tommy, who leads it, it's just like his hobby and his baby, you can say.
Yeah, apparently they are still active since 2005, according to Metal Archives.
Yeah, Metal Archives can be. I don't think any of those dudes actually knows what Metal Archives is, so they're just true to their craft, playing in
Oh,
their little bunker and making albums. And it's sick. I love that band. I think they're awesome.
oh yeah, I've checked out a little bit of their stuff, and it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's very like genuine old school stuff. Like he really loves that shit. And I don't know, maybe I should ask like uh my dad's friend who played keyboards in the band. Yeah, but not sure if he still plays with them, but I doubt it. But I'll ask him if he still talks to Tommy and see if it's active.
All right. And then kind of going into 2012, you did the deal point to the elite with deal's death. Tell me about like that.
Well, we did record that in 2010.
Yeah.
Maybe it got released in 2012, but we did it in 2010 because that was my first kind of proper recording that I would, because I never recorded anything with Anubis either. Like there was a drummer before me, and we were about to record, but we decided to end the band before we really did that. So,
Yeah.
but Elite is what my first recording, which is extremely different from what I do today. And I was very green, kind of inexperienced because I had only played drums for like 2 years or something, and I had never set foot in a studio before. I had no idea what to expect, so that was a really eye-opening and humbling experience, you could say. Um, so we recorded that album, and we didn't like we had ambition, but we didn't think something was really going to happen. Um, but then eventually, a YouTube video that we made for fun went absolutely viral.
Rarely.
It's with our singer at the time. He's just standing and screaming at a piano. It's called Death Metal Vocal Exercises. You can probably find it. It's still on YouTube with millions of views.
Oh wow. I
And
need to check that out.
yeah, and we were gonna release our first music video for a song called Fortified, which is from that album, which is probably the hit song from that album. And we were we noticed like just before we released the music video, like the no, we had already released it, and then we released the funny video. So the music video was out, and a week goes by or something, and at the time there was a YouTube channel called Equals Three. Ray William Johnson. Do you remember him?
It sounds familiar.
Um, yeah, he was the biggest YouTuber at the time, like by far, and he found the funny video, and he made a shout out for that, and at the same time he shouted out our band with the newly released music video. It looked like that was planned to perfection, but it was actually just all coincidence, and we just woke up to it. I remember when I was still living in my parents' house, and my dad wakes me up, and he's like, "You probably should wake up because there's a lot of things going on with your band online right now." I was like, "What?" Didn't really believe it, and all of a sudden we gathered this what was for us like a massive following, and that also piqued interest of countless record labels. We ended up signing with Spine Farm, which is now also Universal,
Oh wow.
and we made another album. And but then,
Yeah. The
yeah,
point
that was
zero
just like
resolution.
at Point Zero Resolution. Yeah, yeah. It's that was like the two albums we made. There was one before, but that was more made like a school project, a pretty good school project, I'd say. But I wasn't on that one. I made the Elite one and the Point Zero Resolution one.
Yeah, and hard to believe it's been 10 years since the
So
last album of theirs.
yeah, well, the band doesn't exist anymore, so there won't be any more albums.
Yeah.
Um, we put the band down in 2016
Yeah. But kind of like going in.
because people want to do
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah, kind of going into 2014, you did this album, Demons by Bloodshot Dawn. I actually love this album, and funny enough, I actually had you sign it from when I saw you on the Cannibal Corpse tour last year. So tell me about like how you end up joining the band.
that is that's a pretty funny story, I think. Well, it's a pretty long story, but it's kind of funny and just filled with coincidences again. Uh, I was still in Deals of Death, and we got an offer to play in Japan, which is very far away from here, and
Yeah.
it's very far away from the States too. So we were like, oh, sure, like let's try to scramble up some money and go to Japan and play. And the band we were playing with was Bloodshot Dawn. And so we all met up and we all became good friends. And we made the tour together over there, which is like a week tour. You don't really tour more than a week in Japan. And then we went back, and a couple of months later, their the drummer who played before me there, Doug, he wanted to take a break from the band, and he decided to do that on a very inconvenient time, of course, like just before a tour. So they called me and asked if I could fill in for him, and I got like a 48-hour notice. But the thing is, like, I thought it was a 4 day notice, so I was like, okay, that's fine. Um, but then I chilled for a day, and then I got a plane ticket sent to me, and so I was like, oh, this is tomorrow. I haven't listened to a single song, so I had to learn the entire set list overnight, pretty much, and then fly out to England, and we played a tour together with Scar Symmetry, and I started playing with them there. And then Doug came back, but then he decided to actually leave the band after a while, and then they just asked if I wanted to do it, and I did that. And then the guys who were in the band at the time, it's a completely different lineup today because the band still exists.
Yeah.
Um, so me, Ben, Josh, and Ant, we all decided to like let's try to make an album, and like we don't have any money for that, so we're gonna try to keep it like low budget. Like the first ever drum recording I did in my own studio, like the room I'm sitting in now, which is my control room, was actually that one. So I was
Wow.
out there playing drums, and Ben was sitting here. We were kind of writing and recording at the same time, like a couple of the songs. And it was my first time trying to play like really technical and really fast. So that was kind of like the start off for that stuff. Um, so I don't know. It's a kind of an important landmark for me, that album.
Yeah.
Nothing was really perfect on it, and it was like the biggest learning experience ever. Like me and especially Ben and Josh, because they were here with me. They flew over from England to come and spend like 2 weeks
Yeah.
here, and we finished the album. And also finished writing a couple of songs, and Ben tried to make me play drum parts that were absolutely unplayable, but he wouldn't really. He wouldn't like let me not do that. So I had to find something that kind of sounded like it. And then I told him like, yeah, I just did it. And he was like, oh, all right. And I think I fooled him enough for a few of the things. But then eventually we just had to like, okay, I this is what I can do. Like you have to give me a fucking break at some point. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty tense recording session because it was pretty new to all of us to record live drums. Like no one actually knew what the fuck to do. So there was some arguments, and it's like it's funny now, but at the time it was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I remember some days like I just like Josh had to leave the studio because he said like, yeah, those two are gonna absolutely murder each other. And so he had to just like walk around out in the woods because he was like his anxiety was peaking because of the tension between me and Ben, who because we were just constantly pushing each other. And Josh was, oh my god, it's hilarious. I'm actually mad that we don't have footage of that because that would be
Yeah.
something
Comedy
really
gold.
really funny to actually look back. Yeah, like it turned into comedy, but at the time it really wasn't. So
Yeah.
now it's hilarious. Like now it's like one of my like favorite memories of like actually pushing myself beyond limits I didn't really think I would ever cross. But then I've gone way further since then. But if I never did that album, I don't think I would really be in the extreme metal scene as a drummer. Like
Yeah.
not at all.
And I still think this is a great album. Hard to believe next year will be 10 years of this album. And I've actually had interviewed Josh literally the day after I saw you on the Cannibal Corpse tour. I even showed him this of course signed by you, and he was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome." So yeah, he's a cool guy. I'm hoping they come and tour the
Yeah,
states eventually.
yeah, yeah. I met Josh on like because we played in Manchester. That's where he lives, and we were there with Cannibal Corpse,
Yeah.
and he's like the only guy I really know in Manchester. So it's like, hey, Josh, come hang out. Like, haven't seen you in years. So we actually spent like almost 2 days together and just like chilling, hanging out. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I know if you meant speak of Manchester, I know you did a tour in Europe with Cannibal, and of course Ingested. Or like I actually know Jason, their vocalist. He's also a good buddy of mine. Had him on here twice.
Yeah, yeah, we shared a bus together, so it's I know those guys pretty well too at this point.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome, awesome dudes, awesome band.
Okay, and then kind of going into 2015, you joined up with Despite, and so far you've released the albums Synergy. Tell me about like the recording process of that and how you hooked up with those guys.
Yeah. Was that 2015?
Yeah, it said that was like when you joined, and then you put out the Synergy album in 2016.
Uh, I think we did. Yeah, around there. Yeah, I remember it. It's like I've always known Despite, and at the time because we had just put Deal's Death down. So once again, like I had nothing, and we were also thinking about me and Hendrik also started Night Crown at the same time around there, and Despite they also needed a fill-in drummer because they were going to play a show, and I'm not sure which one of them that thought of me, but one of them did, or a few of them. So they just reached out to me and asked if I could do the show, and I was like, sure, I can do that. And because I was free, and I like the guys, and they're still like we're not very active. Um, might do a recording soon. Well, like there's one in the works, I guess, but whenever there's time, really, because no one in the band really can commit to touring or make it like have the band as their profession because there's the lives doesn't really match up to do that. So it's like when we have time, we can do stuff with that band. But that recording was funny enough done in the drummer studio that I replaced. He was the recording engineer for it. So because me and him are also like I've known him for years, years, years. Uh, so he was also one of the guys suggesting me to do it. So the album Synergy, because it's not a Y, it's an I in the end. Since it's Synergy, I don't really know the wordplay of it, but apparently it's important to somebody. Um, it's God damn it, I lost my train of thought. Like I always do this. What was I
Good.
saying?
You were talking about Synergy, like the meaning behind the title, and there's like an I at the end. I thought it was Synergy, but then you said it's Synergy.
Yeah, and then I was gonna explain the meaning of it, but I don't fucking know honestly.
Yeah.
It's our thing that to do that, and Peter probably has a really good answer to it, but I don't. Anyhow, like we recorded it in Oscar's studio, Cree Hate Studios, who was also the previous drummer, and that was a very smooth and easy recording. It was pretty fun, and the album turned out really good, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty damn good.
we played a couple of shows, but then again, like I said before, uh, it's difficult for that band to be very active because some members, like they all most of them have families or other stuff that they really need to do. Like one of the guys, he's a CEO of a big company, engineering company, and he is extremely busy with that. Our singer lives in Stockholm, and he has his things, and then we have Andre. He has kids, family and full time work and all that stuff, and we're spread out, so it's difficult. And then also like me being in many different bands and projects, and also being a full time member of Dark Funeral, which means I'm going to be spending a lot of time on the road, and I have a busy life in a different way
Yeah.
compared to them. Like it means that I have to be where else usually all the time. It's pretty rare these days that I can actually just spend a longer stint at home, which obviously is going to negatively affect some of the bands I'm in because my my way of paying my bills is touring with Dark Funeral, and that goes ahead of everything.
Yeah. And so, because going into 2017, you did like you were in two band. I know you did Evocation and Revorium Ib Malakt. I probably butchered that. Tell me about those bands because I've looked some stuff up. It's pretty good, but I don't think you played on any of them, at least from what I was looking up on Metal Archives. I don't know if that's programmed or actually you actually playing.
The Evocation, I haven't recorded anything with them yet. We actually talked about recently that we're gonna spark the band back up again and do something, and that would be my first recording with Evocation because I really would like to do that. It was uh the guy who recorded the latest album with Evocation. His name is Per Möller Jensen. He used to be the drummer of The Haunted and
Oh,
uh bunch of bands, but The Haunted is where I like found him first. And he's an old favorite of mine. So it was really cool stepping into his shoes and his playing style, which is very different from mine, like a lot groovier, and he's a bit more jazzy. Uh, and I don't know, just very different from me. It was really cool playing his parts. But then we did a couple of shows, but then once again, what happened is like people have different commitments in life and what they want to do. Like they can't spend full time doing a band, because that takes commitment with time and money. And you have to be a bit like stupid to really do that, I feel like, because it takes a lot of sacrifice to like really get a band going. Like you have to sacrifice a lot of your time, sometimes your money, and then going into the world of not knowing if we're going to be able to like meet ends meet financially. And Evocation was like, at the time they had bigger expectations of what we were going to do and like how much money was going to bring in, but it didn't really happen that way. So the band started off like with the wrong mentality when they made their comeback, but it might do another one with a more realistic approach, which probably would be more fun for everybody involved as well. And because also the bass player we had at the time, well, that's who's still there. He revived his old band, The Fleshed, again. I don't know if you know The Fleshed.
sounds familiar. I think I've heard the name.
Yeah, it's a amazing band that you should check out. Like it's Gustav Jordum vocals and Larry on guitar and drummer Matte Modin, who used to be in Dark Funeral.
Oh wow.
So it's those three. Yeah, you should check it out. Like
Yeah.
they just revived that band. I saw their second show from their comeback, like their second show in 17 years. So
Damn.
I uh I went I drove like a couple of hours to go see them and just hang out a little bit. It was really cool. I never thought I was actually going to be able to see The Flesh because they split up when I was a teenager, and now they just revived it. And my old I keep saying my old bandmate. He is pretty old, but he's not my old bandmate. He's my current bandmate. I hope he sees this.
Yeah. Yeah, but tell me
Because
about
like I kept asking him in Evocation, like, when are you going to do something with the Flesh again? Like, are you going to revive the Flesh? He was like, nope, not happening. But then it actually happened.
yeah, careful what
A
you
lot of
say.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But tell me about how you started up Crown because I know it's you, Henrik, who I know knew him because he used to play bass for one of my favorite bands, The Unguided. Tell me about like how you formed that band because I've checked out its stuff and it's really fucking awesome.
No, thanks, man. Like that is Nightcrown is funny because it's the only band that I've been a part of where I'm an original member. I didn't replace anybody that I actually got to help form the band from the beginning, like musically and everything around it. So Hendrik, he was still in the Unguided when he asked me if I was interested in doing a project, and he said he wrote a couple of songs. that he wanted me to check out. I was expecting music more like the Unguided because he had never written music like this before, and I was extremely pleasantly surprised when he sent me the demos of the first four songs that he wrote. And those first four songs was the first EP that I also re-recorded for the first album.
Yeah, which was Humanity Will
But
Echo Out.
the first EP, yeah, those were the first four songs, and the drums on those are actually my drunken demo drums that I did, not really thinking about it. I never planned that we were going to release it, but it all happened so quickly. So I wasn't really aware it was really happening, and I was not. I was aware, but I wasn't really ready for it to get traction. So when I listen to that EP, like I just want to vomit because I'm playing so bad on it, and I'm so mad that I did that. So I told Hendrik and the other guys, like, yeah, these four songs are also going to appear on the album, but with new drums when I do it properly.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have any say to it. I said, this is happening, or fuck you guys. So they were like, okay. So that's just kind of where it started, and we started it with the intention of like, we're gonna do this because it's fun, and we're gonna do it whenever we want to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's how we have always kept it. And if we're gonna do more, it's just because we want to. But we are doing more. Like we're our third album is being mixed right now,
Oh wow.
so it's recorded in the bag already. But anyhow, how that happened, it was pretty natural. Like I went pretty far in the story, but it was basically just Hendrik asking me first, and I was the first one to be on board. And we were fishing around for singers, and I was thinking of people I knew. Um, and we actually had one guy say yes first, Robert Carlson from Scar Symmetry,
Yeah.
but he ended up not doing it later anyway. But I have another band with him now, Ironmaster.
Yeah.
But that's a different story. We Hendrik found Ken, who is our singer now, like just uh, from a band in Stockholm, and he hadn't really done a lot of stuff like in live stuff or anything like that, or has no touring experience, nothing like it. But he sounded right, so like asked him, and he was down.
Yeah.
And also you one who plays guitar. Both me and Hendrik, like it's Hendrik's childhood friend, like his best friend from when he was a kid. And I've known you one for a very long time too, because when I started playing drums and when I bought my first drum stuff, he worked in the music store where I went when I was 15 and trying out stuff. So I remembered him from then, and I knew that he's a great guitar player and a great dude. So it was just natural for him to be in the band too.
Yeah. Because I know no
Um,
it was Johan and I forget the other guy Marcus were actually credited on EP, but they didn't play on it. I heard it was Henrik that tracked all the guitars.
Hendrik tracks most of the guitars. I think Marcus did a solo. But Marcus was supposed to play on our first ever show, and Henrik wasn't supposed to be the bass player, guitar player. He was, because he's always been the bass player in all bands. So we had 3 days for our first show, and Marcus just bailed for some reason. Like we're
Oh
not mad at
shit.
him or anything. I don't remember the reason, but Henrik was like, "Yeah, we have to backtrack one guitar." I was like, "No, if we're gonna backtrack something as a panic solution, we're backtracking the bass. You're playing guitar live." He's like, "I've never stood on stage with a guitar." I'm like, "Yeah, you are now." So, uh, give me live takes on your bass, and because we played everything to a click, so I could sync it up to what I'm playing to, and I had a signal of like a clean bass signal sent to his bass rig with his live takes, mistakes, and everything. So the bass was making the same mistakes every night for a couple of times. Um, and then Hendrik has just been the guitar player since, and because he tracked most of the rhythm guitars anyway.
Yeah.
and he writes most of the material.
Yeah, and I also like that debut album in
Well, almost every.
PSVM.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I like that one too.
yeah, and of course, like, cause it's still kind of like the black metal like you do with Dark Funeral, but it's just more melodic, and especially with Johan doing like sort of like the clean vocals, really just makes it sound very unique. It kind of reminds you a little bit, almost like Dimmu Borgir a bit.
Yeah, possibly. It's it's just Hendrik writing most of it. Like, I actually have a few riffs on that one. That a few songs that I wrote a few riffs to. The one I wrote the most on is called "Beneath No One," because we were gonna scrap that song, and I liked the first riff because that was Hendrik's riff, and then there was a few others that I felt like that this is just out of place, and we just sat in his house, and I just like pulled a few riffs out of my ass pretty much, and like let's just do this, and it was a demo. But those are the same guitars that are on the album. They're basically inaudible at some parts, but it sounds like it sounded so dirty. So Henrik was like, "I'm not gonna re-record it. I just left your guitars on it." I'm like, "Why would you do that?" But fine, there it is.
Yeah, and then of
Uh,
course,
and
yeah,
then we
you're
worked
saying,
on the song "Unholy Path." The slightly slower one.
yeah,
It just goes to say, and that one was very different at first, but in the same day, me and Hendrik spent like a couple of hours just arranging it and figure that okay, I think we have a good structure on it now, kind of. Because the structure was all over the place in the beginning, but we just tried to salvage what was there. It was already good, but I knew it could be better. Uh, and we just put our brains together and managed to come up with that. And then Johan, I think, makes a very, very tasteful solo on it. It's not like super shreddy. It's just like, and it's not like just atmospheric either. It's like it just suits the song so well. I think it is that very good, and the chorus is very catchy. So
yeah. And then the latest Nightcrown album, Hadenfod, I thought it was pretty cool. It's also so love how you actually are singing, like all the songs are sung in Swedish. What made you guys decide to like do an album where it's just all the lyrics are in Swedish?
it wasn't us deciding it. Our singer just did it, and um, I mean, honestly, like I don't focus that much on the lyrics. Honestly, God, honest truth.
Yeah,
Because I see like I listen to like when somebody's screaming. Of course, like I do care about the lyrics and all. Like, don't get me wrong, but um, first of all, I want to make sure that all the vocal patterns like kind of fit the song and all that. But on that album, I didn't have that. Like also on the coming one, like I haven't really been involved with the vocal recording because we do everything remote. Like I do my drums here and no one's usually with me. And our singer, he does his vocals in Stockholm, which is is the other part of the country. Um and Guitars are done at home. Everything is basically done at home, except for the drums for this last time because I had like a little issue in my studio that I couldn't really deal with at the time. So I went to Studio Fredman in Gothenburg, an Obsidian recording, which is a room in Studio Fredman, but they have the same recording room. So I actually did the drums there this time, which was really nice. Like I could just focus on playing and not being the recording engineer. And we smacked those drums in pretty quickly. And then I left for the European tour with that we did with Cannibal Corpse. So I did it just before tour.
oh wow. Oh, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next Nightcrown album. But have you all like did any like tours with Nightcrown and works? Is there a chance you could bring like Nightcrown to the States one day? We'd love to have you.
We haven't done any touring at all, but we have done one-off shows and like I don't want to call like a bunch of shows on a weekend. That's not a tour for me. That's just like a weekend with shows. But that's what we have done like a few times. Played a few festivals. which I'm very lucky that we have done because a band is new that has done so little usually don't get to play festivals. So we get to do that sometimes, and no actual tour has been made. And it would be great bringing the band to the States, but with the visa costs and all that stuff, it's basically um, it's a big commitment for us to do that, like a huge financial commitment at least. So, and not only that, it's not easy to get visas. You don't just pay and then you get your visa. It's like it's a bit of a process, and I think it could be done, but it's nothing I would wait for. Like, yeah, next week Mac Brown is going to announce a U.S. tour. Like, no, it's not going to happen like that. But it possibly might happen at some point in some shape or form. Uh, Possibly like if it would do a U.S. thing in Night with Night Crown, it would probably be like a U.S. touring lineup with a couple people not being there. I think
Yeah.
if it would be like a month-long tour or something,
Yeah, I could
and then just
imagine.
like hire a few American.
Yeah, I could imagine like Nightcrown playing at
Yeah,
like
because
Maryland
I'm
Death
always
Fest or something.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that would be cool, but if you would go over to do that, like just playing one show, we need a visa for that show, and that visa takes months to get, costs would cost the band thousands and thousands of dollars just in visa costs, and then we have the flight fares too.
Yeah.
So you basically for playing one show, that would be like financial suicide for us. Like we can't really do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's a problem. Like I wish it was like that, but that's the reality of things.
Yeah. It's a sad world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like because I know you also do session work too. I know in 2021 you did some stuff with Meridian Dawn. You did that Dissolving Bonds EP. Tell me about that.
Uh yeah, it's basically what it was. It was a session job. They asked me to do it, and we agreed on a fare, and I recorded it. It's uh not a lot to it really. Like they sent me the material. I was okay with it. I liked it, and I played until they were happy with the tracks, and that's pretty much it. Like nothing more to it really. And they mixed it, so I basically just record and I send. Like everything is done remotely, and all sessions are the same pretty much,
Yeah, and then I know,
except for the ones where I actually travel to studio.
yeah, and then I know the same year you did recorded the latest Aeon album, God and Tear, which is definitely one of my favorite albums from 2021. Tell me about like how you ended up playing drums on the album.
Yeah, that one is cool because that also actually has my studio name on it. I did it in this room. Uh, well, not this room, but you will see behind that window. There's a recording room, and yeah, you can only really see reflections. But
Yeah, I see a little bit.
um,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, it's I had the same guy who well, I'm gonna try and make a long story short again, which is not really my strong side, but I'll try. It was during the pandemic, and Aeon has always been one of my favorite bands. As like I told earlier, like I started playing
Yeah,
drums because of an Aeon show,
yeah,
like taking it really seriously.
yeah. They're fucking sick.
And yeah, yeah, and awesome dudes too. And Seb from Aeon, guitar player, he reached out to me and actually asked if I wanted to first join the band. And like in a perfect world, I would say yes, but I know that I couldn't really commit to tour with Aeon and Our Funeral, and I know it would just be a nightmare to kind of try to combine that and have a life on top of it. And there would be so much clashes and stuff. So I said I can't commit to touring. Like I really want to, but I can't. Uh, but I can do the album, and we can just see where it goes from there. And we started working on it, and it was tough for me to do that one. Not because it was hard to play, but mentally it was tough for me to do that one for some reason. I wasn't really in the best place. in my mind when I did it because it was in the middle of pandemic. I it was midwinter, so it's super dark and super depressing here. So I was just like I was completely out of it and burned out. Um, so I had my friend Rob from Obsidian and Studio Fredman. He was here with some borrowed equipment from Studio Fredman himself, and we set everything up and we started tracking and recording. And we took our time. We did it took me about 5 days.
Yeah.
It was far from easy because I kept getting like mental breakdowns when I
Oh my
did it.
God.
So I actually had to like yeah, and it was completely unrelated from playing. So I was that I really had to like force myself to really perform on this album, and I struggled a lot to kind of mentally be able to uh even get into the studio. But that had nothing to do with the album. That was outside stuff.
Yeah.
But I still did it. So I'm really proud that we actually got that thing together,
Yeah.
and it seems like it'd been received well too. And
Yeah. I thought there
I
would be.
like that one.
I
Like
thought it
it's
would be kind. Yeah.
another little.
Yeah. I thought it was because there was like a lot of songs. There's like 16 songs on here. I know a couple of them are like interludes. I thought that would have been one of the reasons.
Well, yeah. Also, there was a lot of songs and a lot of details to learn on a fairly short time for me to actually get them down because there was a lot of changes in the songs, and then a couple of songs didn't make it, though they were changed to other ones, and I kind of I don't know. I had problems focusing
Yeah.
when we did it, but I managed to do it, and I felt like the pressure was on, and I kind of caved into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Not sure why though. Like I don't think that would ever happen to me again, but that was just like a very unique situation in my head at the time. But it worked. It's done. It's
Yeah.
dusted. I wish I would play live with it at some point. Like
Yeah.
if it would make sense,
Yeah.
I would love to do that. That's
Yeah. If
a
the
bucket
stars
list thing for me.
aligned.
Yeah, if the stars align, that would be amazing.
All right. And then tell me about how you started up Ironmaster, because I know it's you, Jonas, who used to play with Symmetry, and Robert, who's currently in Scar Symmetry. And fun fact, people say I almost kind of look like Robert a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of do. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I'm friends
like
with
a
him
very
on.
young version.
Yeah, I've actually friends with him on Facebook, and I've told him about it. He's like, "Yeah, I could see it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, Ironmaster, that's like the Jonas writes everything, but he gives me free reins to do whatever I want on the albums, and we have a pretty funny concept of how to make those albums. Because we've released two, but we've done three, so there's another one coming after this one. Like we have done three albums, and it happened in like we did it in 24 months. Yeah, we did three albums.
wow.
Uh, like the first one, I
Uh,
went there and I had learned like a song or two, and he was very worried about that. And I was like, "Don't be. I have a system of how I learn songs in the studio." And I went through it with him, and I was like, "Just let me play a few parts of every song, and then we just like glue it together, and we'll make a quick demo, so I can get like muscle memory reference of every part, like listening back to it, and then I go do the real one." And he was not really buying the concept first, so um, this was doing the first album, and
yeah, Die Ancient
then
Fire.
he got into it, like he understood exactly what I was doing. Yeah, and he was like, things did not turn out like I expected. They are a lot better, and you do things differently than I think. As I said, because it's half of it is just I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like kind of throwing myself out there and hopefully it works. And that's how every single album is done. Like there's nothing pre-thought about how I play drums on it. And then sometimes like if I make a mistake in a song, like I go into a different part like that I wasn't supposed to, and we realize like, oh shit, that actually would be cool. Then we just like rearrange the song and just keep going. And it's all happening very quickly. Like it's always just 4 days of me going there. And when I went there the second time for the second album, he's like, don't even listen to the songs before you get here. Like just do what you did last time, and it makes things interesting and I don't know, not interesting, but also like what's the word I'm looking for? Spontaneous.
Yeah.
It's uh it's just like fresh ideas coming out of nowhere and I'm constantly like in a state of panic pretty much when I do it because I know I have technically I have like 5 or 7 days to do it, but I've done every album in 3.5 days. It's that's how I've spent every single time.
Yeah.
Even though like if I'm prepared or not prepared, 3.5 days usually is like the number. Uh, if it's something like no, if I'm not prepared, that's usually how long it takes, depending on like the producer and what they need from me and all. So these ones have been like, but those sessions, like it's not like lazy days at all. It's just like I have to prepare to just sit there and play drums very fast and very loud and learn tricky parts like on the fly. And then just like when I'm done with one song, it's no rest. It's just like straight into the next one. Like listen to the song for the first time and then kind of just like start figuring out the little quirks on it and find all the unique details that makes everything weird because you can't guess unique details. Like you have to actually learn them. Um, so yeah, it's very intense, but very funny and very challenging.
Yeah.
But I think it shows that albums like they're so energetic and like just fun. They're weird sometimes.
Yeah, and kind of like going back into Night Crown because I forgot to mention one other thing, guys. I know last year you did the rebirth of the old EP, which I think is pretty good. I know you also did a Old Man's Child cover of Born of the Flickering. What made you decide to cover that song in particular?
Um, well, we decided to do that just because Henrik had already made a demo because he wanted to do it. So I heard it and I really liked it.
Yeah.
So it was not only just a like a cover, it was more like a different version of it because the original one is like it's slower, um, and it has more a dynamic tempo. It goes kind of like this, while Hendrik wrote it straight on to a click in 200 BPMs per minute, and it made some parts like almost too fast. So like he changed the dynamic of the entire part, just kept like the main melody, and Night crowned himself around it, which I think was really cool. And I really like that cover actually. It's super cool. And that was also like a very spontaneous thing. Like I just rigged my drums up and I did a few takes and there we go. Like I just played to the music. Didn't
Yeah.
really think about, yeah, I'm gonna try to like this fill, I'm gonna do this and that. No, I just played to the music. Let's go.
Yeah. I
That's
think
what I
it's a
like to do.
it's a good EP, and with that cover, and I know there was like a couple that well the songs that were on Head and Fraud, but they're like they're sort of the English versions of them, and I think that sounds pretty good. Like I listened to both the English and Swedish versions, and both of them kick ass.
Yeah, like I don't I don't know if I'm a huge fan of like doing a lot of things in like only Swedish. Like I know for what reason I don't know either, but I think I prefer when it is in English.
Yeah, it's because English is sort of the
But
universal
that's a
language.
lyricist and a vocalist thing, I guess. I play drums. I should just shut the fuck up. Like
Yeah, and then last year you did probably one of my favorite albums from last year, We Are the Apocalypse by Dark Funeral. I love this album. I'm also curious, how did you end up joining Funeral? How did you get to know like Lord Armon and the boys?
um, yeah, that's also like uh, when Nils decided to quit. Uh, there was they didn't like just know that they were gonna reach out to me, but I was recommended to them by people we know in common, and he wanted somebody in Sweden to do this, and he ended up just calling me one day in 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Must be 2014. Yeah. And in that call, he asked me if I would be interested in trying out and like as a temporary replacement to begin with, like no commitments from any side. Like just try this out. And also in the same question, he asked if he can apply for a US visa for me for a US tour, which is a tour we did with Septic Flesh.
That was
But
the first time I saw Dark Funeral on that tour in Atlanta. I was at that show.
the Atlanta show. Oh, that was that the Masquerade?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know you were gonna play in one room, but I think they had another band book, so they moved you into like the small room, which is in Purgatory. I think that's the only time Dark Funeral has played like the new Masquerade. I think they might have played the old one years ago.
The new Masquerade. The other band that we had next to us was ICP.
Yeah, it was just so random.
So it was juggalos everywhere. I remember that. Oh, anyway, back to the story. Like, yeah, he basically asked me if I would be interested in trying, and at the time, like I was a bit, I didn't have a lot going on, music wise, and I had come out of a pretty rough patch of me fighting myself, pretty much. That involved a lot of drinking for a very long time, and not really doing anything useful with my time. So I kind of, and I had kind of burned my bridges, I thought, of playing music professionally because, I was just a drunk out there, not really doing anything useful for anybody. And I don't know, I guess I wasn't like the easiest one to have in a band for a while. And when I realized that, I didn't really turn that into like, oh, let's fix this. I was like, I give up. Like, I don't give a shit anymore. And he called like in the middle of that, and I was like, I was thinking in my mind like, if he knew everything like what I've done for this past year and a half, 2 years, he probably wouldn't have called me. Um, but I kind of faked it until I made it. I just said like, yeah, man, I'm up for this. But in total reality, I really wasn't. Like I wasn't physically ready for it. I wasn't mentally ready for it really. But you can't really wait to be ready. You kind of have to throw yourself into it at some point. And
Yeah.
I said yes. Let's try this shit. And I immediately, for the first time in a very long time, just like went to my drums and like, okay, let's see if my hands can do this. I knew my feet were fine, but like, uh, let's see if my hands are actually capable of this. I don't know, but I already said yes, and he's already applying for a US visa for me. Uh, I better fucking step up and pull my own weight on this one and not shit the bed. So I put myself in like some sort of fucking boot camp, you could say, because I hadn't really played this style of music. I played metal and I played extreme metal, but Dark Funeral is almost something else when it comes to playing drums sometimes. Like most bands base their uh, songs on beats somehow, like either thrash beats or like something like that. Dark Funeral bases almost everything on blast beats
Yeah.
all the time. So you have to sit there and just like let your hands go all the time. It's like not a lot of breaks. Very physical, very demanding. Never gets easy. Like I wish it would get easier, but it doesn't really. Like I have to stay on top of it all the time. Uh, and that was what I was scared of. Am I gonna be able to really do this? Because I haven't before. Like it was a bit unknown territory. So I that first tour was very scary for me. At least like the first few days, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to play a set that long and like really be able to deliver. And hopefully my nerves calm down, like because I was very nervous when I was going to play back in that. Now it's different. Like it's routine. Like I've grown into my role now. Like and I know I can do my shit. So
Yeah.
I'm happy it got to that. In the beginning, I really was not convinced that I was even capable of really doing that, even when I was on the road for like the first weeks when I was on the road with the band. That
Yeah.
was extremely scary for me.
Yeah.
But
Same.
and on top of that, it's also like having to deal with the internet.
Yeah.
People being like extremely skeptical of like who's this guy that nobody fucking knows who's suddenly going to play drums for a dark funeral. And I mean that skepticism was extremely um what am I what's the word I'm looking for? Um they come on, English. Let's go. Justified. It's justified skepticism because nobody actually knew if I could do this. And I didn't even know. But reading all the like internet going absolutely fucking insane about some random dipshit playing drums in Dark Funeral and being negative about it, I was like, oh fuck, this is not helping. Like I'm not less nervous now. But
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you gotta be like, fuck the haters, just do what you do.
I I I remember the day when I said fuck it, let's go. We played in Portland. I'm pretty sure it was Portland. And it was a really small place. And I something just clicked in my head. I was like, why am I fucking scared of this? Like, fuck this. Fuck these drums. I remember saying, fuck these drums.
Yeah.
And that was the first time our singer went back to me after the show. Is like, something happened to you today. And it was good. I liked it. I really liked it. Keep doing this.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I got my first like positive feedback from the band, like like really
Yeah.
positive, like after a show. And that started like made me grow my confidence and and it's been like this since really, and it's still going better and better. So I'm grateful that I like rolled the dice and was able to actually learn how to do it on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so was that Septic Flesh tour like your first time ever in the US?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
so
was.
so how nervous were you to like going to America for the first time? Because I remember seeing that tour, and ever since then, I think I've seen every US tour that you've done since then. I haven't missed a show from you all since.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was scared. Like I was legit scared to do it because I'd never been in this part of the world. Well, that part of the world, I'm not there right now, but I've been there a lot since, uh, privately and professionally, of course. Um, but that first time, when it's all unknown territory, there's no routine. Like I have no routine. Like I don't have the same type of touring experience as the people around me. I have something to prove, and if I don't prove that, I'm out. So it was also those things I had in my mind. And not only prove myself that I can do this, but I actually have to convince and prove other people around me that I am capable. And it's that there's like a reason to keep me in the band. Like that's what I was working for, and that's what I was aiming for. But you have to start at some point. Like you can prepare all you want, but then you actually have to get out on stage and start doing it, which was something I never really intended. Well, I intended to do it, but I never actually counted on that as something that I'm gonna do. But yeah, a lot of things went through my head that first tour, but that was like the one of my most like life defining moments, honestly. When I by the end of that tour convinced myself and the people around me like I can do this.
Yeah.
Um, which is something I didn't expect, but it happened, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, but and of course, going back to We Are the Apocalypse, still one of my favorite albums from last year. I remember hearing Let the Devil In with that sort of like, I think it was like you doing that drum intro. It sounds very tribal, well sounding. Like, where'd the idea of that, doing that little drum intro, come to be? Did you come up with that?
It was me and Michael, um, Armon. Uh, he kind of pushed for it more than I did because there's one thing I absolutely despise in this world, and that's drum solos. Believe it or not, like I hate drum solos.
Yeah.
I cannot stand them, and I never want to do them. And now I have to do that drum intro every single show, and then it's an extended version of it too.
Yeah.
Um, it's like we kind of. I remember that like how the first idea of that sparked, and that was an early rehearsal for me with Dark Funeral because we were in the first practice room we had when I joined the band like 5 years ago, something like that. This is maybe 4 years ago or something, like 4.5 years ago, let's say. And he had that riff, and he said he wants some sort of like drum intro for it. And I started doing something similar to this, and then we recorded it on the phone, and then he started programming it in some way, and then I played it in another way, and it turned into this, and so it's kind of like a collaboration thing. So nothing that I really pushed for, but he pushed for it more. And he's the boss, so it's there.
All right. And and since it's been a little over a year since we were at the apocalypse, have you all started ideas for the next Dark Funeral album?
There's always ideas, and Armon is working on some songs, but nothing that we're gonna say like, yeah, don't expect a new recording from us next year. I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah.
I I don't think it's gonna take 6 years at least.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then kind of like going into to your second to last thing you've done recently, you did Imperium with the Ex Mortis Gloria. Tell me about like that project. How'd you hook up with all those guys? Because I know they're from some of the members are like different parts of the world.
yeah, um, it's that was actually more of a session thing. I mean, it's a band, I guess, but it's not a band that would ever do anything. But it's a session thing. Um, and but I recorded that album's like it just got released, but I think I recorded that over 6 years ago. Like I recorded that before I was in Dark Funeral. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, very long time ago, or possibly I just started playing with Dark Funeral. I don't know, but it was a very long time ago. I recorded that, and then when I saw that that's gonna get released now, I was like, wait, what? I did that? That was my first thought. And I'm like, oh, this one. Uh, but yeah, it's really cool. But it's all these projects, and especially when I do sessions, like I can't stay involved all the time. Like usually when it's time for me to do something with any of the groups, that's when I like invest my time,
all
and
right,
and I do it like in a sense where I need to, and when I don't need to, like if my job is to record drums for whatever project or band, that's all that is in my head at the time. But when I'm done and if I don't need to do that anymore, I usually let the people who need to handle with the next part do that because I'm already moving on to the next, and to kind of keep myself going with it. And if I would stay uh like very invested in everything in every project that I've been in or any session job, like my mind would be so fried. Like I've tried that, like being in multiple bands and you just try to run all the band, not run the bands, but being an active member who takes many decisions of how to do this or that. I can't really do it.
yeah,
I
and
my mind just like explodes, and then I'm just like a vegetable for like I just completely burn myself out. I just sit there and I can't think. I can't do anything.
yeah, and you play with a lot of different bands, like stylistically, like Dark Funeral was more black metal, Night Crown's more the kind of like black metal, but with the melody, and of course Ironmaster is more death metal. Is there like a sim like kind of like a different like mind frame with that you're in, depending on like the projects you are, or is there sort of like a like you could just like be have free reign to like do what you do?
I mean, I always just do what I do, but it all depends of who I'm playing music with. Like I have to think, uh, like in Dark Funeral, for example, um, it's not as much like playing rhythms and guitar riffs, and there's not a lot of things in the guitar riffs that I can accent because all of it's just like open strumming chords and stuff like that, and I can't follow every single thing. So what I try to do more in Dark Funeral, especially live, is that I accent vocals all the time because our vocalist has a lot of patterns that I've learned,
Yeah,
and how he accents certain things and how I can enhance those little accents that he does with like just following it a little cymbal here and there, and just like really accent his words, especially when he's doing like very almost percussive parts. I like to do that stuff. And with Night Crown, we have more riffs and rhythms, where it's so easy. Like drums just write themselves to songs like that. So like you don't really have to care much. Like you hear a riff and you can just like, okay, I basically hear the drums already. I just play it. Follow the riffs, and if there's more vocals that are also percussive, but then I hear like a hook, I find that hook and I make sure that I play around that hook and somehow. Like I don't like to like program drums first or just sit there and really write a lot of stuff. Like is not for music like this because in my mind it doesn't really need it. Uh, it does, but it doesn't. Like you have to just understand and know what you're listening to so you can properly play around it. Like know where the boundary is of overplaying.
Right.
Uh, if you know, like, and that's also like a personal preference of where that boundary is. But you know, my preference and where I think I can take like a lot of space where I can do a lot is usually when there's not too much vocals on. Like I'm playing with the other instruments and like there's hooks or there's just like space that needs to be filled, then I'll do something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And then
it's,
kind of
I don't think a lot.
all right, and then of course your last thing you've done was the latest Ironmaster album, Weapons of Spiritual Carnage. Nidge, tell me about like that. Since I know it just came out back in April, like I still a fucking great album. Tell me about like that because I know it was came out like literally right after Die Ancient Fire. Did you feel like pressure to follow up that album?
No, no, because we recorded this album before The Ancient Fire was even out. Uh, I think we no, we recorded all three albums before we even released the first one. So it wasn't really hard. I always thought like the second one, uh, Weapons of Spiritual Carnage, like we did it the same way. We had the same concept. I have songs. You don't listen to the songs. You come here. I do what I explained earlier. I just quickly skim through the song, make a scratch demo, come back, listen to the scratch demo, go in, record it, done. And
Yeah,
that's how we did it. Like we did it the same all three albums. So like any album you ask me about, it's gonna be the same story actually.
yeah.
But it's just we did it because it was fun. Like
Awesome. And kind of the last question to sort of wrap things up. I'm always curious about like your drum gear and drum setup. Like, can you just talk to me about like what kind of like drums you use, cymbals and pedals and sticks and stuff?
uh let's see if this works. Hold on. I can probably just bring my laptop out and show you some shit and talk about it at the same time.
Oh wow.
It's
I
probably not.
sort of I get a little drum tour too.
Yeah, my studio is a mess though. So,
Uh,
uh, like right now, my studio kit, like the nice parts of the kit are the tops right now.
yeah.
See, probably
Wow.
that. It's a double bass kit. Actually, I bought like the kick drums are from my old kit because I had two of them, and I bought them from the band Avatar like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, that's a Tama Rockstar kicks and Tama Star Classic Babinga drums. They are not made anymore, so but this is a recording setup I'm gonna have for my a punk album that I'm gonna start recording after we hang up. And symbol wise, I have Meinl, full Meinl setup, and I'm also endorsed by the company, and they are great. I'm actually not using a Tama snare right now. I'm using a good old Joey Jordison snare
Oh yeah.
from Pearl. Pedal wise, you see, you get two red ones down there. They're Chartsy Copitos, and they also have like engravings and stuff. I'm not sure if you can see that.
Yeah. I see the Iron Cobra.
Oh, you see the red one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a little custom thing.
Yeah.
And there's Mike's shit, but that's too much stuff.
Yeah.
Um, here's the actual snare for the kit, which is the Star Classic Babinga snare. I don't even know if you see that, but
Yeah.
and here's the rest of the room. Just
Wow.
more drums, the guitar amps.
Hell yeah. That's a good
But yeah,
setup.
that would be like a very quick rig rundown. Like I could talk gear forever, but also I
Yeah.
don't want to talk gear forever.
Hell yeah. That's all good, man. That's a really good fucking setup, man. Man. Before we go,
And
you
my
oh yeah.
recording shit right there, folks. Clarite A3X with an octave. Nothing fancy.
Dude, that's a fucking awesome setup, man. Kind of before in
Yeah.
the end to sort of wrap things up, Janne, what's next for like Dark Funeral, Ironmaster, Nightcrown? Is there anything else you would like to plug?
Uh, I don't know. What's next? We have Dark Funeral is on a touring cycle, so we're gonna tour for a long time.
Yeah.
Ironmaster, we're gonna release the next album that's already done. Uh, I think vocals needs to be done though. Like I'm not sure. I'm not there for that, so they're gonna do that. Nightcrown album coming out, and Hendrik cannot stop writing music, so we're already like starting the foundation of the next one after this one that isn't even released. Uh, I have more bands. Like I don't even know anymore. Like
Yeah.
you would have to ask me like when it's relevant. Like everything is just like everything is at least moving forward with every single band, you know. But there's no like set plans except for like Dark Funeral right now that we're gonna tour a
Awesome.
lot, which we have been doing,
All
and we're
right.
gonna keep touring. Like, we have a lot of territories to still cover, and then just come back again. And as long as there's interest, we're gonna tour.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
everybody, buddy, Yanni Alma from Dark Funeral and a bunch of other bands. We'll see you next time.
That